I get scammed every single year and there isn't a single thing I can do about it. So this is my yearly service charge for a 2-bedroom leasehold flat that I own, and this year it came to £3,800.
A big change has been announced today to one of the more feudal elements of the housing market, a change that actually sort of started under the Conservatives, but didn't provide help to people already caught up in what I think is a bit of a trap leasehold, isn't it? I think you're captured by it in a way. By late 2028, the government says, all ground rent for leaseholders will be capped at £250 a year. There are around 5 million leasehold homes in England and Wales, and this is where people own the right to occupy a property via a lease for a limited number of years from a freeholder, but those leaseholders then pay a fee that comes on top of bills, a fee that is not related to service charges, to the owner of the land. And those fees can go up quite precipitously, without warning, and really for nothing. Ground rents were abolished for most new residential leasehold properties in England and Wales in 2022, but that did not allow for those people already in a leasehold to escape those charges. Now, the government says they are consulting on whether or not to cap leasehold ground rents at £250 a year in England and Wales, but that won't come in until late 2028. We read that there's been a bit of a tussle in government over this because the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has presumably been a bit worried about what this is going to mean for all those companies that own these properties, that make money from the leasehold ground rent that is paid, and the pension funds that are attached to those. If you had a very, very reliable source of income for doing seemingly absolutely nothing whatsoever, you might be a little bit irritated that that income is drying up. So the battle in government was over the protection of the leaseholders versus the protection of the profits of those people who were making money out of this. And rightly, it strikes me, the people who are in those homes have won. Although I suspect you might think that if this is feudal enough to be capped at £250 a year, why isn't it scrapped altogether? Why is it only right to pay this amount and nothing at all? If you are in a leasehold, I'd like to know what this, or you are a leaseholder, I'd like to know what this change means for you. How much are you being charged? What are you being charged for? What kind of effect is that having on your bills? How much are you celebrating this change versus if you own the property or you're linked in some way to making money off these things, whether this is a fair change. Actually, you've been coining it in on the basis of very little for long enough, and someone has decided to step in to end what is a very, very odd practice, it strikes me. I think leasehold... I honestly... What is the value in having leasehold as a way of purchasing a property anyway? It is just a bit of a scam, isn't it? 03456060973. Katie Kendrick is founder of the National Leasehold Campaign. Thank you for coming on the programme, Katie. These changes, you clearly are presumably delighted by them.
We are delighted. They're very much welcomed. The National Leasehold Campaign have campaigned for many years to cap existing ground rents. So this is the cap, but what we actually campaigned for was to set it at zero. As you quite correctly said, Tom, you know, this is payment for absolutely no service. Therefore, it should be a zero. But in saying that, the cap is very much welcomed because it will free up leaseholders to be able to sell their properties, to be able to have their houses or flats mortgageable again. So it will get things moving in the housing market.
Explain to someone who is coming to this afresh why this is necessary.
Because at the moment, ground rents are really, really onerous. So they go up year on year on year, so you can have reviews every 5 years, and it's an income stream for absolutely no reason at all. Ground rents are really important for us to get rid of them in order to move to common hold, which happens everywhere else in the world. So we are one of the only countries left with this feudal system, and to cap ground rents to ultimately get rid of them, because they've also said that they're going to phase them out and they're going to go to a peppercorn in 40 years is very much welcome in the transition to common hold.
So how much roughly are people paying in these ground rents?
It completely varies. Some of the old-fashioned leasehold properties would have a peppercorn, so they'd have zero ground rent or a £10 nominal fee. But actually what's happened in the last 20 years, which is why we launched the NLC, is these modern ground rents are not £10 a year. They are well above £250. I know on my estate, the houses started at £295 a year. You know, it was only a couple of years ago I was speaking to a leaseholder in central London whose ground rent was £900 a year, and they said to me that if the government came up with a £250 cap, they would absolutely snap their hand off.
So, Katie, just to be really clear about what they're paying for, this person's paying £900 a year for the privilege of living in a property they have paid for, in part, to the owner of the land that the property is built on.
Correct. It's money for nothing. It's part of the cash cow that is otherwise known as leasehold. You don't get anything for that. It's just we have these very cleverly worded leases now that actually extract ground rents when they historically used to be a peppercorn.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I started the NLC because they started to get really, really greedy. So they started to build leasehold houses with these stupid modern ground rents. And that was when the doubling ground rent scandal hit, where the Competitions and Markets Authority got involved. But today's action's really good because you are right. There's a ground rent act in 2022 which capped new builds from having a ground rent, but that did nothing for existing leaseholders.
Yes. So this goes
really
a bit further, doesn't it?
We're not left in limbo.
So this goes a bit further than that, quite a lot further than that. This now guarantees that for current leaseholders, they will have a cap of £250 a year, but only by the end of 2028, we're told.
2028. Can I just say, I wanted to reassure people that if they have got a peppercorn ground rent at £10 a year, it does not mean that your ground rent will go up to £250. That is not what this is going. Because we have had some people contact us panicking that their ground rent is actually going to go up. That is not what this legislation is about. And also, the end of 2028, Matthew Pennycook has just stood up in the House in the last hour and said it can happen sooner if there is will. Members of Parliament can help to speed up the process. So yes, it's 2028. It's far too far away for those that are paying these extortionate fees, but we will lobby and continue to push government to bring it in as soon as possible.
I have to, well, I don't have to, but it's my job to put the other side of this, which is I'm the owner of this bit of land. There are 17 flats built on it in a block. I thought that I was getting this amount of money. Everyone signed up to it. You all agreed to it when you signed for it. That's part of the deal. And now some socialist left-wing government has come in and is ridding me of this very valuable income stream, to which a lot of people's pensions are attached.
I firstly disagree that lots of people's pensions are. This has been a long time coming. If any sensible person who invests in pension funds would have disinvested in ground rents many years ago. This has been on the cards for a long time. Regarding, are we taking away their assets and they're going to be really peeved off? Yes, they are. Am I bothered? Absolutely not. They have milked leaseholders and got away with this racket and extortion for far too long. Enough is enough, and I am so glad that the government have sided with leaseholders, because this is a David and Goliath battle, and we've won this one today, but I tell you, we have not won the war, because there will be legal challenge, I have no doubt, but actually leaseholders need to stand fast on this. I'm going
to ask a very cheeky question, Katie. What do you make then of the reports that Rachel Reeves was very much against this, and it took Keir Starmer to intervene to get this over the line?
I'm really not surprised. Whether or not it's this government or the last government, you know, our sticky point has always been Treasury. Trying to get things through number 11 has always been problematic. Do you know, at the end of the day, this announcement has happened today. Keir has announced it. Whatever Rachel Reeves, I mean, she's obviously involved with investments and whatever. I don't get that. Those sob stories do not cut it with the 5.2 million leaseholders that are stuck by this feudal system. So they have to put people before party. I'm sorry, but this is our homes. This is our home should not be used as investment vehicles.
Really appreciate your time. Congratulations on the campaign. Katie Kendrick is founder of the National Leasehold Campaign.